Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Uh, it's great pleasure that Saurabh and Kapil could make it this for Fire Chat. Uh, with today's topic, I guess, control and governance, when we often seen, it is a, people look it as a constraint or hurdle for their BAU operations. But I think that is the most important part of any operations and the sustainable for the company. And this is what the topic today. Saurabh, if we can start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sure. So I think first question to you. Saurabh, how do you look at the effective governance model in your day-to-day BAU operations?
I think, Govind, first of all, before I answer this question, thanks a lot for inviting me. And thanks a lot for inviting Kapil, because I have known Kapil for the last 18 years. We have worked together for about 8 years, often at the loggerheads, because of the governance and controls. He was at the controls side, I was at the more from a processing standpoint. But yeah, I think the question that you asked is a very important question. Given the fact that with the digitization and all, and with the expectation of doing all the transactions with speed, compliance at times, the controls at times, they become a burden on the processes. And that is where the importance of embedding the compliance controls as a part of the life cycle transactions is very important, is to create rule-based frameworks, rule-based workflows in the processing steps, so that we are able to bring controls which are closer to real time, or real time preferably. A lot of continuous monitoring is important, because given the fact that a lot of transactions are happening, and because we are into lending, payments, there's a lot of money which is actually going out, coming in. So ensuring that the controls are within the transaction framework actually help us identify the issues at the right time. So getting the money back and everything is very important. And as soon as you are able to identify those issues, the sooner it is, the better it is. And that is why the embedding of the controls in the process. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think governance is across all entire company. It should be embedded across teams. So Kapil, my question is to you is, how do you manage governance across different teams, your product, IT, sales, and of course operation? So how do you manage the single governance framework in the overall company?
Very pertinent question in today's age and times, Govind. As I said, as Saurabh also said, first of all, thanks for inviting us, because it's a setup for like-minded people of all the industry solvers, if I can say, and it's great to be here. So on this question, it has to be a joint responsibility. We need to take compliance not as a competition, but as a ally for a sustainable growth. If there's a governance mechanism which is in the DNA of the organization, then it will be shared across units. So any product which gets launched by product team, they should not only look for revenue, while risk should not only look for the portfolio risk, and tech should not only look to deliver what is being asked, and ops not only execute the transaction, but they have to come all together once and share a joint responsibility that it augurs well for the customer as well as for the organization. And if we can have that embedded as a culture in the organization, I'm sure there will be, while we are adopting that product, there will be guardrails prepared by the risk. Tech will not only go for the execution, but go for the controls within the product structure, so that there is no manual overlay or manual biasness which can come in. And ops has to, as a last unit, but most important unit, they need to ensure that the policies which have been prepared, they exactly are being adhered to at the time of real execution. And system should become the maker rather than a person, who it doesn't become a scalable operation if a system is not the maker. So ops in age and time we are moving to it should be an exception management team rather than a maker of the processes. That's what I think will be the visualization if I will do.
And you rightly said the operation team is the last gatekeeper in lending industry. They call as a gatekeeper, and anything goes wrong, the last one is the ops team who control and stop all disbursement at last moment. And again, all sales people comes heavily. Bhai ye kya hua? Okay. So, Saurabh, in lending, if you could see which are all governance capabilities which you see in NBFC should adopt, and in probably in this evolving age, highly regulated, regulated by multiple governing authorities, what is the most important governing capabilities should be adopted by the overall companies precisely in operations?
I think when it comes to governance in today's time, the checkbox compliance kind of a way has to go away. We have to create a compliance culture which is very strong and where every employee is responsible from a risk management perspective. I think more from the perspective of what really we can do, as Kapil said, I think we are reaching to a stage wherein the maker activities, the people actually making it has to actually do away with. We have to really, really automate the maker activities and also then ensure that from a checker perspective, the checker is as close to maker. We have the post facto exceptional reports which we can get. I'll just give you an example, very underrated example, funds going out. A bank recon, I think a lot of what will say, okay, it's a basic activity, what nonsense. But it is the most important control, by the way. And I think, and we do use a lot of recon tools, one of obviously from Transbank. But the closer these tools are to the transaction, the better it is. The exceptional reports, subsequent, and the management reporting. So there has to be a key risk indicator. It's very important. So there has to be a bring up mechanism for the issues, which can be raised at the supervisory layer where the issues can be identified and also discussed. And for us to discuss, the identification is very important. So it's to reward people who are able to identify and not really cover it with something.
Understood.
It is very important to reward those things. Bad news should always travel first is what should be the mantra that every organization should follow. Good news will always be there. But bad news has to travel first, so we are able to identify and fix the issues and compliance first mindset. Yeah.
Understood. Understood. Thanks. Saurabh, as you said, you have taken the reconciliation tool from Transbank. But on this related question, so let's say I know what due diligence you guys have done with us, and it took a month to close that. But if you wanted to just give us a synopsis, it's a dual edge. So there are multiple fintech in this summit. Also, there are multiple, and they have innovative ideas. They have innovative things to get the business faster and do the disbursements or end-to-end journey. So from governance and control perspective, what do you do to, one, without slowing the entire process or without slowing the effective, what you can say, API integrations, quick API integration, but however you also wanted to control from data security perspective or your InfoSec security perspective, what do you think you should do and what you all are doing?
I think as I mentioned earlier also, when it comes to controls, it should not feel as a burden, and therefore embedding it as a part of the process and not really as an independent process is very important. So while the transactions are happening, the controls has to run from behind. And there are various tools. We have AI, and I think AI has been a great enabler when it comes to creating that kind of predictability in the transactions, which can actually give you outliers much before the way it is happening. It used to happen earlier. So embedding the controls as a part of the process is the key. Creating rule-based workflows is the key for us to ensure that the processor at the who's doing the processing doesn't really feel the burden of it.
Understood. Understood. Kapil, one question to you. And after RBI guidelines, digital guidelines implemented, and the overall regulatory is so focus on the NBFCs primarily. So, do you think it is a hurdle for NBFCs, or it is a growth engine or support from regulatory? What is your view on this?
See, it's always a question whenever a new guideline comes in, we take it as a competition. So it is not a competition. We don't have to compete with RBI because they have, bigger vision to look for the economy and the country. So while there were some operational challenges at the time of implementation in initial days, I have been at the suffering end of it because I come from a supply chain fintech, ProcCap, and there were challenges in revolving product, because there were some interpretation issues. And they were our partners, by the way, as I speak. So there were certain challenges in that. But at the same time, if you compare the banking with previous age, there was a feel and touch kind of a branch. People used to go and have that kind of experience of the banking. But in today's age, there is a app which people primarily work through. And there has to be a lot of confidence when we deal into those apps, because there is data issues, there is money movement, there's so many things which we are confiding in a particular app through our phone. And RBI wants transparency for the customer. That is the first motto. And all those compliances, if you look at, they are solving two problems majorly. One is a portfolio risk, if you look at it really, and also one is customer protection. So once these clarifications came in, which took some time for the industry to adopt into the processes, there were key fact statement, for example, APR disclosure. Yes. These are the things which customer is definitely supposed to know. What are we paying against a loan we are taking? And there are obviously few apps, I don't know name them, but there are practices which are not good for the industry overall. If you charge exorbitant interest, it is never good for the industry as overall. So these transparency measures helps in the customer confidence, and it instills the confidence into the partnerships as well. So we are a small fintech, for example. We are upcoming fintech. There are bigger partners in the industry, and if they join hands, and if that agility can be synergized, it can reach out to far more customers, help them, like we are helping MSME grow. And if there's a confidence in our partnership between the two lenders, and also customers' confidence in the company they are taking loan from, that is what RBI wants from all these, compliances which they are coming in. Last 2 years, they were many folds. But it is helping in the longer run, in fact, medium run. Shorter run, obviously, there will be certain impacts which we felt, but outside it, it is definitely going to help in scalable operations. That's my view.
Absolutely. And one of the
examples.
examples.
I'll just add to what Kapil also said. I think DLG guidelines, they moved a lot of aspects which were actually in gray to very clearly in black and white. Things like credit guarantees, things like from where the funds movement is really happening. From a customer disclosure perspective, it was very important, because at times the customer would not even know who is basically lending to him. So it has been a great enabler in that sense.
Absolutely, and I can understand the key fact statement in multiple languages that increase
one
the trust.
big important innovation.
Yes, that increase the trust across customers in rural or tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. Yes. So I think one last question to both of you. I think just see again. It is exception, the control, governance is all about exceptions, fetching exceptions from the your BAU. And those exceptions, at time, those exceptions, you don't want to look at it. Your team doesn't want to get into those exceptions, and they manage how they can, subset, or that exception should not come to the management level. How do you look at those exceptions, both of you, and how the exception overall remittance governance framework which you wanted to embed in your both the entities?
I think I'll give you an example of what we really follow in our current organization. It is a very transparent way of highlighting the issues. And I think every organization face issues when it comes to data, when it comes to anything. I mean, processes do fail. They fail every day. But the important is to identify and raise it to the right level. I think within the team in our organization, we have a very independent governance team that we have. They are doing a lot of audits, not just from the perspective of operations, but as a company as a whole. And this is something which is, this is a separate team from internal audits, which identify these anomalies in the system. There is a proper system to escalate. So we have created a ticket mechanism and all that. And there is a calendar which is blocked for all of us, all the seniors, wherein these exceptions are discussed and we take it to closure. So the intent is to create that kind of an environment that people are not very scared that in case there is a problem, that they will be held accountable. Accountability definitely is there, but it is more to fix the issues than to pinpoint or a blame on individuals, and then focus more on solutions. The entire management of our company is involved in identifying, in discussing these issues at large. We have a KRI deck that we say, key risk indicators. It is something which is being tracked very closely by all of us.
Yeah, Kapil.
The only thing which I would add here, because it's primarily the same across companies, but what we also should be ensuring is the RCAs. That RCA is very important to understand what was the root cause analysis. Since, if there will be a process, if there will be people who will be doing it, there will be errors. The important reason to would be know is whether these were intentional. If obviously intentional, then it comes into fraud category, which I'm sure, normal day processes are not equipped completely. But most of us as professionals have enough experience to understand that these, creeps in our daily processes. So how do we eliminate them? Or if not eliminate, at least go to zeroize them as much as possible. And that's where root cause analysis is very important, apart from what Saurabh said. And these can be embedded into, if possible, into, at the time of real transaction monitoring itself. And this can help in reducing as much as possible. And as always, there have to be the culture of, not rewarding, but at least feeling comfortable in explaining or in coming up with, if there is any exception which comes in, as a part of process checking. It should not only be data checking, it should be a process checking as well. And that's why concurrent audit is being mandated by the RBI to highlight if there is any process gap as well. Because process gap ultimately results in data inefficiencies. So hybrid process of both process as well as data has to be the, the way to go forward.
Have you, both of you, implemented any digitized risk framework, kind of kappa tracker and the automated anomalies finding, kind of CAT when we were into Aditya Birla, so CAT tracker and
yeah, we definitely have kappa tracker. We have IRMS, which is incident reporting management system. It is not a very automated way right now, but definitely the intent is to create a workflow wherein everything gets reported in that tracker. But from a tracking perspective, it is definitely there.
So in that sense, we are a little lucky because we have an indigenous tech team in ProCap, and they have built a lot of system guardrails itself, which helps in early warning signals. So there's an EAR review which happens between all the teams, amongst all the teams, and therein, system throws what was the key identifiers in terms of exception. For example, even if I talk about one simple case, I come from a supply chain background in last 4 years. Obviously, I've done lending in almost all the products across industry. But in supply chain, there's a continuous dispersal. And it doesn't stop at one-time transaction. Invoice. So we have to monitor it real-time almost. And how do we do that? For examples, customers have been given a limit of 20 lakhs, okay? Hypothetical. And in our invoice comes in, say, about 2 lakhs. And we know on an average, his invoice comes in about 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs. But suddenly, if there's a 10 lakhs rupees invoice, the system will highlight it. And these are the kind of exceptions management tracking we are building into the system. And it comes from daily experience. So it's an ongoing process continuously, at least in ProCap. And I'm sure in credit size and across industry, people use their experience to build enough guardrails into the system.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, Kapil. And you both of you were thanking us, but rather Digital Fifth team, especially Srikanth, who could able to manage this at very short, within a short span of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
very
much.